Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'll be taking a look at a prize figure from a product line that's part of a select few in the budget tier category that continues to grace my collection, namely Taito's Coreful line of crane prize figures. In particular, I'll be unboxing and reviewing a pre-painted scale figure of 02, which is the deuteragonist but arguably most prominent character from the critically acclaimed sci-fi mecha anime Daarling in the Franxx. Apart from the end credit scenes, I don't actually recall 02 ever wearing the school uniform she has on here in the anime storyline itself. But the fact that she does appear in this attire at all, even if it's just the end credits, is reason enough for a healthy demand from fans of 02 collectibles to exist. Enough that Taito released a Coreful version of her back in July 2022. The box art comprises either close-ups or full figure views of the Taito Coreful 02 uniform version figure. One side of the box art has her standing against the blue X logo on black as the background, while on the other side, we see 02 against the iconic X logo, but this time in red on black. Now, these two X logos are actually the stylized alphabets of the word Franxx in the anime title, but the double X has, by its own right, become an instantly recognizable logo of the anime series. Anyway, let me get the figure and its protective material out of the box, and I'll resume the commentary once 02 has been fully unwrapped. Overall, the Taito Coreful uniform version has a pleasing color scheme comprising white, greys, black and pink of her uniform and hair against a fair skin tone making up the main colors, while minor colors such as green, red and orange exist in lesser amounts on her eyes, horns and base lettering respectively. These colors form a combination of soothing pastel and complementary colors, of which the pinks of her hair is the most prominent hue. So despite the presence of many neutral colors, it's a color combination that actually works for me. But one thing I couldn't shake was what I felt as a rare slip up by Taito in the likeness factor, as the figure's face seemed rounder and shorter than her anime counterpart. 02's button nose also isn't as well defined as I would have liked. On the other hand, I love both the sculpt complexity as well as the clean paintwork, with great color separation on the school uniform that 02 is wearing. Taken together with her pose, the folds and creases on 02's school uniform attire, coupled with the way her jacket, skirt, shirt and tie is billowing and swirling around her, injects a sense of dynamic movement to the figure, helped in part by the way her hair looks like it's reacting to a twirling movement. And as I touched on earlier, the paintwork on the figure is clean with good color separation, albeit with an almost non-existent color gradation, save for the hair, which is mostly opaque except for the ends. In 02's case, the lack of paint shading or gradation isn't as noticeable due to the fact that the paintwork is both clean and detailed. I'm not sure if it's just me, But I seem to notice this lack of shading, especially on the skin tone of prize figures, when the rest of the paintwork is sufficiently varied and clean. Being just a prize figure, I guess the manufacturer is doing just enough on the paintwork without going the extra mile to save on costs. Next up, we have the simple round base that 02 will stand on, which comprises the character's name and designation, as well as the DNA strand motif, all in an orange hue against a dark grey background. The colours of the base are simple and complement the figure's colour scheme. Assembly of this Taito Coreful uniform version of 02 is a straightforward process of attaching the pegs on her feet onto the holes on the round base. So for those of you who want to get to the detailed commentary on this figure's attributes, feel free to skip ahead using the timestamps below. Standing at a height of about 18 centimeters, this uniform version of 02 looks to be smaller than the average size of older pre-painted figures from the Taito Coreful prize figure lineup. This smaller scale is significantly noticeable when compared to the previous Taito Coreful figure I reviewed, namely the Sakurajima Mai summer dress version. As a comparison, Mai was released way back in April 2021, while 02 uniform version came out in July 2022. If you haven't watched that review, just know that Summer Dress Mai was approximately 20 centimeters tall. In general, most of the older Taito Coreful figures were of this height. So on average, the figures from this lineup have shrunk by 20 millimeters in height since 2 years ago. Size aside, what also caught my eye early on was the muted pastel-like hues that's dominated largely by pink and varying shades of grey. It's a surprisingly pleasant colour scheme when you consider the large amount of neutral colours involved. In addition to the main colours, the insertion of teal on 02's eyes and sky blue stripes on her thigh, both in small doses, effectively liven up the overall colour scheme. While the reds of her horns ensure colour accuracy that's specific to the character. 02's fair skin tones go well with the overall muted pastel-like colour scheme, but like most budget price figures, skin tone shading is completely absent. Meanwhile, her pose looks fairly dynamic, thanks mainly due to the many folds and creases on her school uniform attire, which when coupled with how her jacket, shirt, skirt and tie is billowing around her, all suggest she is in mid-movement, helped partly by how her hair is flaring outwards to the side. However, one uncharacteristic feature that rarely occurs in a Taito Coreful figure was rather apparent in this one, namely a lightness factor that seemed a bit off, at least to my eyes. Using this picture-in-picture reference of the anime character as a comparison, 02's head seems longer and more angular on the anime images, versus the rounder and shorter version on the figure. Moreover, her mouth seems smaller too on the figure. At least the paintwork on her face was pretty good, with well-defined eyes, teeth and mouth, though the lack of skin shading sees a less than optimally defined nose, which contributes to the low lightness factor. Meanwhile, Zero Two's hair, while reasonably well sculpted to differentiate individual locks of hair, does look a bit unnatural to me and a tad too voluminous, which makes her head look even smaller. And because shading on her hair is limited to the ends of her hair, it largely looks like a mask of monotone pink. On the other extreme is Zero Two's excellently sculpted school uniform, with its nice and clean paintwork. This Taito Coreful figure is one of the rare examples of a budget crane price figure that has had so much thought and effort put into its clothing or attire to make it look incredibly dynamic. Each fold and crease on her jacket, shirt and tie, as well as skirt, contributes greatly to the sense of movement by the figure. This is helped by the fluid S-shaped pose that this Zero Two figure is adopting, which you can see more clearly from the front as her hair is blocking her back. Not only is the sculpt of the uniform fantastic, but the clean paintwork on her uniform is equally impressive, especially the details on her tie and skirt. Fan service in the form of Zero Two's exposed navel and an upskirt shot of her pantsu are pretty mild by Japanese pre-painted figure industry standards. Me personally, I'm just glad the line design on her miniskirt were clean and well defined. Skirt designs can help a figure's paintwork stand out, and although the design here is pretty basic, at least it has clean paint lines. Zero Two's school uniform look wouldn't be complete without having most of her legs exposed by that short skirt. I say mostly because she is wearing dark grey knee-high socks and black leather shoes. What could have made her exposed legs look sexier would have been to apply some shading on her skin tone, but it is what it is. Meanwhile, her flat round base is dark grey with orange coloured designs and lettering. It has a simple colour scheme that gels well with the rest of the figure. Despite an arguably less than perfect lightness factor, this Taito Coreful Zero Two uniform version pre-painted price figure still has a lot going for it. Like most collectors out there, when I was looking to start my own little Zero Two figure collection, I began my search in the budget-friendly category, or the crane price figures. And what stood out for me, among what little was available, since Darling in the Franxx has more of a cult following rather than mainstream popularity, was the figure's pastel-like colour scheme on a wonderful and dynamic-looking sculpt of Zero Two's uniform. It's the only budget price figure of her in a school uniform that I know of, as the other uniform version of a Zero Two pre-painted figure lies in the more expensive upper tier category. Now, why am I boring you with this long backstory, you might ask? Well, it lays down the context of why I still went ahead to get this Taito Coreful figure of Zero Two. For a budget figure, she looks fantastic, save for the lightness factor. Normally, if a figure has a hint of an issue in the lightness factor, I wouldn't even consider putting it in my collection at all. That tells you how much this Zero Two figure has managed to redeem itself in every other way. It has an interestingly dynamic pose, a lovely colour scheme, and a brilliantly sculpted uniform, not to mention a clean paintwork overall. Even the choice of colours on the figure's simple round base ensures that it complements the figure well. All this against minimal paint gradation on the molded in colours, and the over-volumized hair, and of course, the lightness factor, which in all fairness isn't all that bad, just different enough that it became noticeable to me. Taking all this into account, and the simple fact that it's a figure I like having in my collection despite its shortcomings, I'm giving this Taito Coreful figure of Zero Two in a school uniform a rating of Platinum or B rank. Like most budget pre-painted price figures, Taito's school uniform version of Zero Two from the Darling in the Franxx anime series isn't perfect, and has shortcomings that are almost unavoidable for figures at this price point. Yet it's a figure I'm glad to have to start off my Zero Two collection in a little corner on my display shelf. On that note, we have come to the end of this unboxing and review video. I hope you have found it useful. if you were looking to start a 02 figure collection of your own, please do subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so that you'll know when new content is uploaded. Also, please like the video if you enjoyed it, as it'll help my channel tremendously. And thank you if you did. Until next time, thanks for watching, be well and be happy.